Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is November 22nd, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see Washington, Oregon here. There's Idaho and Montana. As you can see, we've got some moisture streaming in here. It's actually going to meet up with some Arctic air moving down across the Rockies and bring a pretty interesting snow event here across some of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and some of Utah as well. Pretty cold temperatures there with that Arctic air mainly staying east of the Rockies. And we're going to be in kind of relaxed mode here across Pacific Northwest, at least for a few days, but the extended forecast does look exciting here for us. We're going to take a dive into that as we go through the video this morning. Taking a look at Seattle yesterday, 1700 vintage. I think that's going to still be added to that here. I think it cut off right there in the precipitation. So there's probably going to be more from this last round. We had a nice rain that we had going through last night, but it's going to be the last for at least a bit. But we do have some more active weather coming in towards the end of this month into early December. I'll show you that here in a moment. And if you want a nice affordable weather station, check it out. The smartphone app is exactly what it looks like on your phone. You can tap these individual icons and get more data information on your place of residence. Highly recommend that. Click on that link down below to save 10%. This is looking at the NAM 3cam hot off the presses. So you can see some of that moisture that was streaming across the area as we go through the day today. You can see some precipitation still across Oregon, Idaho. Then you see that Arctic air really sag across Montana, start to push out with some northeasterly gusty winds into the valley area here of Idaho, 2 to 5 inches pretty much for the valley areas. Could be some blowing snow across some of the higher terrain as well, especially above 7,000 feet. Big winds and a lot of snow flying across the region there, all the way down to Utah, Wyoming, eventually Colorado. And you can see we're going to be drying out here across Pacific Northwest, and we'll take a look at when we can expect this return of some active weather here in a moment. But you can see all the winter weather advisories across Idaho down into northeast Nevada, winter storm watches across a lot of southern Montana and on in through Wyoming. So heads up, if you're traveling eastbound across I-84 or I-90 or going into the Rockies or down to the valley here, Twin Falls, Pocatello, out here, Idaho, heads up for those wintry conditions, especially as you go through Thanksgiving night. So hopefully everybody is at where they're going by that time and you're enjoying dinner. You're not trying to drive around on the roadways out here. Now looking at apparent temperature, this is Washington, Oregon here. This takes into account wind chill temperatures here. So as we go on in through the next few days, you'll see the Arctic air sag across Montana and the Rockies there and spill out into some of the valley areas of Idaho there. And as we go into Friday morning, pretty chilly across the Rockies, as you can see, and it's going to feel pretty chilly here across some of western Washington, Oregon. We're going to have some offshore component to the winds, and we're going to be entering kind of a little bit of a foggy regime here, but we might have enough wind to keep it from getting too dense across the area. This is a little bit closer look at Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming here. Just a heads up, again, if you're traveling eastbound out of Oregon or out of Idaho, the Panhandle into western Montana over the next few days, you can see some of that snow all the way down to the valley areas and big snows across the higher terrain, gusty winds associated as well, Yellowstone included. And looking at the 80-meter wind speeds really quick here, you can see as we go through Thursday, look at these winds pick up, these northeast winds ripping all the way down across Idaho there. So heads up for that. The worst of it should be probably sometime on the day Thanksgiving going on in through the evening there. Now looking at apparent temperature a little bit closer one more time, you can see the Rocky Mountains are here. By the time we get on into Thursday afternoon, you can clearly see the very cold air start to arrive here. It's going to be very chilly out there across much of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. Now taking a look at the 24-hour running total here on the GFS. This will start our look onto the extended forecast. You can see the system kind of impacting Idaho, Montana, Wyoming there, and we really dry out here across BC, Washington, Oregon. No systems through the 24th here. Let's just go ahead and keep flying through the extended forecast. And finally, we get a system as we go towards the end of November here and bring some precipitation back by the 29th and 30th. We'll continue to watch that system there, but then we've got some interesting systems developing here off the coastline. This one might initially impact California, but then we've got our own set of storms here headed for the Pacific Northwest as we go through the early portion of December. Looks like the Gulf of Alaska troughing is really going to get going as we go through the early portion of December here. But of course, it's off in fantasy land right now, but it is something fun to watch here over the next few days. This is looking at Bellingham. This is the wrap up from that storm here on yesterday afternoon's European, but you can see the active weather returning right as we get towards the end of November into early December coming up. Same thing for Astoria. You can see some of the juicy totals here showing up in some of the extended forecast. Just fantasy for now, but definitely looks like a return of the stormy weather back to the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, Tacoma, some big monster windstorms actually showing up in some of the extended forecasts as well. Look at this one, number 49, 70 miles per hour hour for Seattle. We're not going to start diving into those details just yet. We'll watch some of these storms and see how close it gets. As you can see, we got a ways to go for that. I mean, you're talking about what, 10 days out for most of these big wind events here, but you can see the control run even at a 50-mile-per-hour gust there. Now, this is looking at the GFS. This is hot off the press of the 12Z run. This is the ensemble mean. Got the Gulf of Alaska here. There's BC, Washington, and Oregon. And you can see we're going to dry out here for at least a few days before we bring another system in here as we go towards the end of November. And let's see, that one will be showing up right about there. And then you can see the active Gulf of Alaska troughing getting going, potentially spreading some stronger storms towards the Pacific Northwest. But again, we're looking at that 8-9 day time frame right now. So we're not going to be diving into any details on these storm systems just yet, but we'll continue to watch this day by day. Now, looking at the GFS, the 12Z run, this is what things look like currently. You can see that Arctic air moving down the Rockies there. So it's going to be spawning that snow event there across Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. As you can see that chilly Arctic air moving down there associated with that high pressure. But you can see this ridge here kind of keeping us dry for the next few days. And then as we go on into the extended, initially it looks like a weak system coming in there on the 28th or 29th of November, and then we get an interesting storm down here for California, and then we really start to crank the Gulf of Alaska low here, and you can see it spreading low pressure systems back out the Pacific Northwest, potentially some of them on the stronger side. But again, something just for us to watch at this point. This is 8 to 14 day. You can see it's just starting to pick up on the return of some of this precipitation to the west coast here. This would be the 29th through the 5th of December. Pretty rainy period here as it is for the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, interesting stuff here. I look forward to getting the storm track back into the Pacific Northwest. You guys know me. I love to see it stormy here across the region. But yeah, might make for some nice sunrise scenes coming up here for the next few days. Some foggy conditions, a little bit of offshore wind. Enjoy it. If you like the dry weather, enjoy this time frame coming up here because it looks like we're going to start to get active again. But anyway, we'll check everything out again tomorrow. We'll see how the model runs trend. We'll take a look at the fantasy windstorm forecast as always. And I hope you guys are liking these videos. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.